A missing plane, lost for 34 years, has just been found, completely intact. No wreckage, no signs of a crash, and the passengers? They're still there. Not skeletal remains, not faded relics of the past, but perfectly preserved bodies, untouched by time. How could this happen? What took place on Flight QZ-12 that day, and why, decades later, does it seem like no one ever left that plane? Some call it a scientific anomaly. Others believe it defies all logic, hinting at something far beyond human understanding. In today's video, we unravel the eerie mystery of the Indonesian flight. But the truth may be even stranger than you think. Setting the stage, Flight QZ-12. On October 14, 1989, at Soekarno-Hatta Airport, the commercial flight QZ-12 was preparing for takeoff from Jakarta to Surabaya. Passengers, including some family business folks and a few students, were patiently waiting in line, whispering prayers for a safe journey. By the windows, Pak Salim traced the edges of his well-worn Quran, turning to his wife. "Let's read Surah Al-Kahfi for a blessed journey," he said. She nodded, offering a small, uneasy smile. Nearby, Fauzi and Ridwan, returning home from their studies, reminded each other to recite the Safar prayer, their excitement evident in their tight grip on their boarding passes. A young mother gently rocked her baby, murmuring reassurances. Instead of annoyance, fellow passengers responded with kind smiles and understanding nods. These were ordinary travelers, each with a destination, unaware that their journey would take an unexpected turn. The airport speakers crackled. Flight QZ-12 was boarding. Passengers moved toward the jet bridge, some chatting, others lost in thought. Outside, the sky was clear and star-filled, a perfect night for flying. Inside the cockpit, Captain Haroon, a respected and devout pilot, completed his final checks. As always, he began with a short prayer before addressing the passengers. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard QZ-12. We expect a safe and smooth flight tonight. Please take your seats and prepare for departure." His calm voice reassured them as flight attendants assisted passengers, secured luggage, and fastened seatbelts. Outside, the runway lights stretched into the unknown as the engines roared to life. Passengers exchanged nods, whispered prayers, and gripped their armrests a little tighter. And then liftoff. The plane climbed effortlessly into the night, Jakarta's city lights twinkling below. For the passengers and crew of QZ-12, it was just another routine flight. Until it wasn't. Everything seemed normal until it wasn't. Have you ever experienced a moment where something felt completely fine, only for everything to change in an instant? Share your experience in the comments. Early signs of trouble. About 20 minutes after takeoff, the cabin lights started flickering intermittently, followed by a slight vibration that made some passengers exchange curious glances. Meanwhile, the flight attendant maintained a professional demeanor, offering reassuring words, while the captain, Mr. Haroon, stayed composed. They announced over the loudspeaker that they were making some adjustments to their flight path due to minor navigation concerns, and assured everyone there was no cause for worry. Fauzi, sitting by the window, tapped Ridwan on the arm and mentioned that the flight seemed to be taking an alternative route. "Maybe there's a slight detour due to weather," Ridwan replied calmly. In the cabin, an elderly man holding a prayer bead quietly comforted some passengers who looked unsettled by the flickering lights. He spoke softly, asking everyone to remain seated as the crew was in communication with the control tower. Some passengers turned to quiet reflection, while others engaged in conversation to stay at ease. Meanwhile, the captain and co-pilot were verifying flight data. For a brief moment, there was a slight turbulence, causing some movement in the overhead compartments. A few passengers gripped their armrests, but the situation soon stabilized. Captain Haroon made another announcement. "Everything is under control. We appreciate your patience while we finalize adjustments." With that, the cabin gradually returned to a calm atmosphere. The flickering lights, the slight turbulence, it all seemed manageable. But then, in a matter of moments, Flight QZ-12 went completely silent. No distress call, no emergency alert, just vanished. And what happened next left even the most experienced investigators baffled. The disappearance. The control tower was trying to get a status update on Flight QZ-12 over the radio, but there was no response, as if the plane had unexpectedly lost connection with the radar. The control tower officer, Mr. Hendra, repeatedly called out, "QZ-12, QZ-12, please report your position." But all they received was static, indicating a temporary communication failure. Inside the cabin, some passengers nervously stared out the window. The sky had shifted from clear to a dense layer of gray clouds, making it harder to see ahead. The captain signaled to the co-pilot to activate the emergency equipment while pressing the signal button so the control tower could track their position. However, the device blinked without transmitting coordinates. The flight attendant moved through the aisle, ensuring all passengers were securely fastened, while calmly providing instructions in both Indonesian and English. Salim, sitting in seat 12B, held his wife's hand tightly, whispering a quiet prayer. His wife nodded and joined him in silent supplication. Fauzi then encouraged Ridwan to lead a group prayer, and a few nearby passengers joined in. The cockpit instruments displayed conflicting data, making navigation increasingly challenging. Meanwhile, the control tower, upon detecting the communication loss, promptly initiated search and rescue protocols to investigate the situation. Despite immediate search efforts, Flight QZ-12 seemed to have disappeared without a trace. But as search teams scoured the ocean and jungles for answers, the mystery only deepened. What could explain the plane's complete absence? Before exploring, I have a special 10-second request for all of you listening. If you can help me in any way, just hit the notification bell and hit that subscribe button. It helps this channel so much. And if you do that, I will do everything I can to make this show even better for you. Deal? Suspended search and lingering mystery. Search teams have been looking for signs from the air and sea, but so far, no wreckage or emergency signals have been detected. At the command post, concerned family members are waiting for updates, some visibly emotional as they hope for the safety of their loved ones. An officer named Andy suggested that the plane might have gone down in the Java Sea, but when the patrol boats searched the area, all they found was unrelated ocean debris. Meanwhile, local fishermen reported seeing a strange light in the sky on the night the plane went missing, though there is no confirmation that it was QZ-12. The media started covering the disappearance with various theories, including possible mechanical failure. Meanwhile, a religious leader on TV urged people to remain hopeful and pray. The government set up a special investigation team to handle the case and is currently reviewing control tower recordings, but so far no clear findings have emerged. After a brief emergency signal from the cockpit, communication was lost. Some families gathered with religious leaders for comfort and support, engaging in prayers for guidance and hoping for positive news. There was speculation about unexplained possibilities, but aviation experts emphasized that further investigation was necessary before concluding. The search efforts were expanded to include the mountainous areas along the flight route, but no conclusive evidence was found. The dense trees made the search challenging, and after weeks without significant discoveries about QZ-12, the large-scale efforts were put on hold, leaving unanswered questions for the country. For years, families held on to hope, and investigators chased every possible lead, but nothing surfaced, until one day, deep in the untouched jungles of Kalimantan, a discovery so shocking it challenged everything we thought we knew about the fate of QZ-12. Surprising discovery in Kalimantan. Fast forward to November 2023, a scientific expedition led by Mr. Nurden, a tropical forest biologist, was conducting research in the heart of Kalimantan when they accidentally stumbled upon the wreckage of an old plane. While pushing aside the leaves and branches in the dense jungle, they were shocked to see the airline's logo on the wing. Though it was faded, it was still recognizable as QZ-12, a flight that had reportedly gone missing decades ago. The expedition team quickly contacted the authorities via satellite radio to report the discovery. However, something was strange. The aircraft's frame was still largely intact, and spiderwebs covered almost the entire rusty body. It was evident that the place had been untouched for a long time, yet nature had not completely consumed it. A female researcher named Cinta stepped inside the plane's cabin, switched on her flashlight, and let out a small gasp before calling out, "Mr. Nurdin, you have to see this! If this plane landed safely, who or what was flying it? Drop your wildest theories in the comments below." Bodies preserved in time? Inside, there was an unexpected discovery. When the team entered the cabin, they found rows of seats still neatly in place, with some spots covered in moss. But the most mysterious sight was the remains of a passenger still seated. The tension was high, but the surroundings were eerily unchanged. Among the researchers, there was a mix of fear and awe when one team member said, "Look, there's an open book in this passenger's hand. It seems like they were reading." Even though the cabin was dark and damp, there was no obvious odor or major signs of decay. It was as if time had barely touched the remains. Mr. Nurdin quickly instructed the team to proceed cautiously and document the discovery for further scientific and historical analysis. The forensic team arrived and noticed something unusual. The remains appeared well preserved despite the passage of time. Experts were puzzled, as such preservation is not typically observed under normal conditions. One forensic expert, Dr. Farid, examined the remains and said, "We need to investigate this carefully." Meanwhile, a scholar present at the site acknowledged the cultural and spiritual significance of the discovery. Some remains were found holding objects associated with personal beliefs and customs. A particularly notable case was a man who appeared to be holding a small open book. Across from him, a woman was found embracing what appeared to be a small child. However, there were no immediate signs of distress or struggle, leading investigators to question what had truly happened. The forensic team collected samples for further analysis, and initial reports suggested a preservation phenomenon that required deeper scientific study. A police investigator confirmed that the wreckage was estimated to be decades old, but the condition of the remains did not align with typical expectations. Experts examined the site for potential environmental factors that could explain the preservation, including radioactivity levels and chemical composition. However, nothing immediately stood out. As the investigation continued, a local scholar commented, "There are many things in this world that remain unexplained, and science and faith often intersect in moments like these." Authorities and experts agreed to proceed with careful examination and proper procedures before making any conclusions. The combined team of forensic scientists, aviation experts, and historians worked together to piece together what had happened. Dr. Farid noted that while some minor injuries were present on certain remains, they did not align with typical high-impact crash injuries, raising further questions. Finally, the flight recorder was recovered, buried under debris. When powered up, the team managed to extract a short, fragmented recording. The last audible words were from Captain Haroun, who was heard repeating words of distress mixed with static before the transmission abruptly cut off. Was this a miracle, a bizarre natural occurrence, or something else entirely? As experts examined the remains, faith and science clashed, each searching for an explanation that could finally put this mystery to rest. Faith versus science debate. Amidst the tense atmosphere, some team members noticed their fear eased when they recited sacred verses together as if it provided comfort. The unusual events led some to speculate that QZ-12's disappearance wasn't just a technical failure, but possibly involved factors beyond modern science. The discovery of an undecayed body sparked debate. Some viewed it as a divine miracle, while others sought scientific explanations. A Quranic scholar referenced the story of Ashabul Kahf, where believers were preserved for years without decay. Meanwhile, Professor Harris, a biologist, suggested environmental factors could explain it. Though no concrete data supported this, religious scholars cited Quranic verses about divine protection, emphasizing that faith sees certain phenomena beyond human reasoning. The government facilitated discussions to explore explanations, but no single conclusion was reached. Journalists covered the debate from different angles. Some saw it as an extraordinary event, while others remained skeptical. A religious leader encouraged believers to see it as a lesson in faith rather than a controversy. Aviation scientists reviewed the data but couldn't explain how the plane landed intact in a remote forest. Some locals turned to religious scholars, who emphasized their belief that divine will can influence outcomes. While the debate continued, it underscored the intersection of faith and scientific inquiry. Investigators found a final note from the pilot and co-pilot containing a prayer before takeoff, reflecting their faith. Several passengers, returning from a religious gathering, reportedly engaged in prayer and discussions about spirituality during the flight. Radar data indicated the plane should have remained airborne, yet it unexpectedly changed course into Kalimantan. Weather conditions were clear, and the control tower still heard the pilot's voice before communication was lost. Forensic teams discovered the engine was still running when the plane landed, with no signs of a crash or explosion. A technician noted that the aircraft appeared to have descended unusually, avoiding major damage. The final mystery was the timestamp. The cockpit's digital display froze at 1842. But the date appeared in an unrecognized format. The unusual findings led to speculation about possible anomalies, but no definitive explanation has been confirmed. Planes vanish, but don't let this channel disappear from your feed. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss another unexplained aviation mystery. But as investigators dug deeper, strange stories began to emerge. Could it be that Flight QZ-12 had encountered something beyond our realm of understanding? Local legends and supernatural hints. Mr. Nearden, the expedition leader, explained the remote forest's location to investigators, noting, "There is no emergency landing strip for a plane like QZ-12. Local religious leaders suggested beginning the investigation with prayers for safety. Reports of unexplained occurrences in the forest led forensic experts to collect soil, leaf, and water samples near the crash site, searching for natural preservatives or unique compounds. Initial results showed no unusual chemical activity, but researchers continued to investigate possible explanations. At an emergency meeting, scholars, researchers, and officials discussed their findings. At night, team members noticed dim lights and heard rustling sounds, making some uneasy. Locals believe the area is spiritually significant and often avoid it. Pak Deng, a community leader, mentioned that on some nights, distant voices can be heard, though no one has identified their source. Surveillance cameras set up in the area experience unexplained battery drainage, and footage mostly captures indistinct shapes. One team member, Lena, reported seeing a white-robed figure near the plane, but it disappeared before others could confirm the sighting. The air around the wreckage felt colder than the surroundings, despite no recorded temperature drop. A religious leader in the team recites prayers nightly, offering reassurance. Villagers provide supplies but prefer to keep a distance, feeling the area has a strong spiritual presence. The logical mind demands answers, but the evidence refuses to conform to logic. Even the plane itself showed no signs of a conventional crash. What happened in the final moments before the plane went missing? And why did it seem as if time had simply stopped? Scientific insights and unexplained mysteries. The team found an open Quran on the plane and turned to Surah Al-Kahf, verses 9 through 26, which tells the story of the people of the cave, believers protected by God as they slept for decades, Scholars noted similarities with the QZ-12 passengers, whose bodies reportedly remained intact despite logical expectations. Some recited the verses, seeking guidance, while others reflected on the faith of those on board. Investigators found the plane's navigation system slightly damaged but still operational, which seemed unusual. The cockpit showed minimal damage, the landing gear was extended, and the plane appeared to have landed gently in the jungle. The engine had lasted longer than expected, adding to the mystery. The last recording captured the crew reciting prayers before the transmission ended. Passenger belongings remained neatly arranged as if untouched since departure. Local villagers recalled seeing a bright light on the night the plane vanished, accompanied by distant sounds of prayers. Some claim to witness a shadow of a plane pass overhead on the same date each year. Out of fear, they hesitated to report these occurrences, attributing them to local beliefs about the forest. Scholars conducted ruqya at the site, describing a strong spiritual atmosphere. Some reported hearing sacred verses echoing from an unclear source. Researchers detected unusual electromagnetic fluctuations and observed an unexpected lack of bacterial growth on certain samples, raising scientific questions about preservation. While experts examined the findings, others interpreted the event as a reflection of faith in divine power. Religious leaders and scholars gathered at the wreckage for prayers and discussions. A well-known scholar, Kiai Mahfoud, emphasized that wisdom often reveals itself over time, drawing parallels to the people of the cave. The discovery of QZ-12 became a symbol of faith, the limits of human understanding, and the mysteries of the natural world. Even as experts continued their analysis, one undeniable truth remained. This discovery had changed lives forever. Whether seen as a sign of faith or an unsolved anomaly, Flight QZ-12 left behind more than just questions. It left a legacy. Emotional transformation, community, and faith. The Kiai urged faith in a higher power, reminding scholars to stay humble. Researchers sought to bridge science and spirituality, showing their compatibility. After a lecture, scholars embraced Mr. Nurden's team, strengthening their resolve. Amidst complex research, they gathered for reflection and guidance, hoping QZ-12 would offer a meaningful lesson worldwide. Scholars and volunteers documented the discovery through books, articles, and lectures. Religious forums sparked discussions, and a sacred text found at the crash site inspired renewed faith-based study. Interest in spiritual tourism grew, though the government restricted visits to protect the ecosystem. QZ-12 became a key topic in historical and religious discussions, blending modern discoveries with timeless lessons. Bu Rahma, who lost her husband in the crash, chronicled her 34-year search for clarity and finding you in eternity, sparking conversations on faith, sincerity, and science. Young educators used it to connect spirituality with modern understanding. Over time, QZ-12 became a symbol of unity, inspiring diverse communities. The QZ-12 memorial near the mass grave remains a site of remembrance. Skeptics reconsidered their views after learning about preserved remains, drawing parallels to historical narratives. The tragedy underscored life's fragility and the limits of human knowledge, emphasizing introspection and good deeds. Initially unsure about spiritual interpretations, the research team began recognizing science's limits, sparking discussions on knowledge and belief. Grieving families found comfort in knowing their loved ones were honored. Each year, on QZ-12's anniversary, gatherings at the memorial and places of worship foster unity. If you found today's video interesting, don't hesitate to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Your support is very important to us. Be sure to check out the next video appearing on your screen. You're sure to love the content we bring. Please leave a comment about which country you'd like us to explore next. Thank you for watching, and see you in the latest video. Thanks for being with us. Leave a comment, like to show your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button for more exciting videos. See you next time.